Alright, so if you watch my upcoming Group Buy series, you will know that I was super hyped about this next board, the Alpine 65. Now, it drew a lot of criticism and skepticism because Bitmap Studios had never released a keyboard before, and they were promising a $300 keyboard with gasket mount, had a badge, had the brass weight at the bottom, and it just kind of seemed kind of impossible, but they came through with the board. I think the final price was around $315 for this board. What really drew me to this keyboard was the layout. It was different from any of the other 65% keyboards that were coming out because the arrow keys in that outer row were separated from the rest of the keys on the keyboard. But you know, having a good price, having gasket mount is one thing, but we got to see, how does this keyboard sound? Now, before we get into the sound test and what I think about this keyboard, let's look at what comes in this box for $315. Now, in the case, I went with a hot swap PCB. This is a custom one from Bitmap. They'll give you a plate. I went with the brass plate, so I'm gonna get a little bit more clack. Now, I'm gonna match this up with a tactile switch that has a softer bottom out, which you will see later. And then the case I went with was the E white. It came in a couple of different colors, but I really like this white look. And then in this case, they have the EVA case foam in the bottom. It has this rubbery texture to it. And then they also have a foam insert that goes between the PCB and the plate to soak up some of that reverb that could possibly come from typing in an aluminum case. They also give you 2 sets of gaskets if you want to change out the plates. Then they have 8 screws that connect the bottom of the case to the top of the case to sandwich the plate for gasket mount. So as you can see, they really set this keyboard up to sound really good. Now, the building process of this keyboard was super straightforward, as with all gasket mounted keyboards. You just put the gasket strips on the bottom. There's 6 different posts on there, and then 6 on the top case, and that sandwiches the plate. Now, you can put these strips on the top and bottom of the plate, but I really like doing it on the case. Essentially, this just allows me to switch out the plate at will and not have to worry about applying new gaskets if I do pick up another plate. Now, this is a gasket mount done right. This is what I was hoping to see with the GMMK Pro from Glorious. It doesn't have any screws connecting the plate to the PCB or anywhere in the case. The only thing that holds the plate, PCB, and foam together are the switches, the plate, and the PCB. So it allows this keyboard to still have a lot of flex while remaining hot swap. So if you're new here and you don't know what a gasket mount is and you're wondering how it can benefit you, well, most keyboards from the store and most budget custom keyboards are using tray mount or top mount if you're lucky. So with the tray mount, you're screwing the plate and the PCB down into the case. So you're using about 6 or 8 different screws, and then you're gonna get a lot more rattle. The sound isn't gonna be as consistent, and you're kind of typing against some posts in the bottom of your keyboard. With the top mount, you're gonna get screws that are gonna screw around the top portion of the case. Now, this is better for consistency because the middle still gets a little bit of flex. Then you're still having screws, you're still having metal on metal action, so you'll still get some rattle with a top mount. So with a gasket mount, like I said in the beginning of the review, you're gonna have pieces of foam and the plate is gonna sit in between it and sandwich it. So as you can imagine, when you're typing on it, the bottoming out experience is gonna be really, really soft. There's not gonna be any metal on metal action, but just metal on foam action. And that's what makes this keyboard so crazy, is that this only came in at $315, and some of the custom keyboards can run you up towards that price, even on the budget end of things. So since I have a brass plate in this build, I decided to go with some tactile switches, and the ones I went with this time were the Kinetic Labs Penquin switches. These are what the Dragon Fruit switches should have been like. These are based off the Ergo Clears. Ergo Clears are switches that were created from other parts of switches. It had a Cherry MX switch with a slider from a clear switch and a spring from a black switch. It comes in 2 different weights, a 63.5 and a 67 gram. I went with the 63.5, and it feels like, if I could, explain it to you guys, it feels like a very smooth tactile switch with a very small bump, non-intrusive at all. It's almost like you have an alpaca with a slight bump. Now, I know you guys know I'm in Linear Gang, but Linear Gang, let me just have a little moment with you guys. I approve of these switches. Try them out. I'm telling you, as a linear guy, I love these switches. Now, Kinetic Labs went a little bit further and they added in a 78-gram spring in there, about 6 of them for your mods. Just because they're bigger keycaps, they'll allow you to spring back up a little bit faster and match the other keycaps on the board. So that's one reason why I love Kinetic Labs, is that they think of all these little things and little intricacies that could actually help your board sound and feel better. And those 78-gram springs are actually included when you purchase these switches, and they're about $55 for 90 switches, which is a really good price. And since it has such a short stem, it's gonna have a nice soft bottom out, unlike a Holy Panda or a Kiwi switch, which has a longer one. It's gonna have that impact at the bottom. You're gonna feel the bottom of the switch. On this one, very soft, and it matches up perfectly with a brass plate. Now, I also went with the new Duroc V2 stabilizers. These were lubed with Krytox 205 Grazer lube, and the wires have dielectric grease on them because I like a little bit slower return on my mods. So since we have this super clean e-white case, I wanted to go with some super clean keycaps. So I went with the black on white from Polykeys. These are available on Kinetic Labs. Great price, $60. They feel good. The texture on them isn't too rough like you would find on some other PBT keycaps. Quality keycap set. So enough about the setup of this keyboard. Let's drop a sound test so you can hear what this keyboard sounds like. So as you can see, those ergo clears match up perfectly with that brass plate, the super soft bottom out with the gasket mount, with all the foam in the case. I'm really in love with these Penquin switches, highly recommended. The case sounds so good, especially for $315. It doesn't feel like they compromised on anything. This is a top tier board. They could have easily charged $400, $450, $500 for this board. And the way it sounds, people would have been all right with that price. So that just goes to show, we gotta give people a chance because Bitmap Studios delivered on their promise. Affordable, gasket mounted, 65% keyboard that sounds amazing. You can also configure this keyboard with the VIA software. That means that it's just plug and play, instant changes, no flashing necessary. This does have per switch RGB, so you can change the lighting effects through the VIA software as well. But since I have this super clean minimal setup, I just leave the RGB off. If you want to add multimedia keys or macros, you can do that via the VIA software. As for the case design, it's a very hefty boy, feels really good in the hand. So I just want to finish up by talking a little bit about the case and the overall design of it and how I've been liking it. One thing that they changed out that I was a little bit disappointed in was the badge. They went to an etched design up at the top instead of having a legitimate badge. I kind of missed that, and that was one reason why I was hyped for this board, but you know, it still looks good. But if they would have done that, that would just taken it to the next level. The weight on the back looks amazing. I love how it kind of creeps up on the ledge. I love the clean lines on the sides. Reminds me of like an Iron 165. And then the etched designs on the bottom of the case look really nice. And on the front, it slants upwards to the top case. So it's not a seamless design. And it makes it look like the keyboard is floating when you're looking down at it. It gives this really cool effect to it. And then the USB-C is on the right side, which is something that I'm new to. I kind of like mine in the middle or on the left because the coil can go across. So very interesting design, great price, great sound. So I gotta say, Bitmap Studios really knocked this one out of the park, and I'm glad because I was hyping this up to you guys. I know a lot of you guys bought it off my recommendation, so it's really nice to see them come through on this. I even messaged Bitmap and told them like, yo bro, thank you for doing this, because you don't often see people doing this type of stuff in the community for this price. All right guys, it has been your boy BT. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.